prayer carries a particular kind of hope, a hope different from ordinary hope, because it has a direction, it's oriented towards something beyond the immediate circumstances, beyond what the person praying can see or influence through their own actions. And those who pray for something consistently over a long period are people who haven't yet reached the point where hope itself runs out, where the accumulated evidence against something finally outweighs the belief that it might still be possible. And when that point arrives, when the praying stops, it isn't because the person has become disbelieving or decided that prayer doesn't work, but because something more fundamental has shifted, because the thing being asked for has become something the person can no longer find within themselves the conviction to keep praying for. And this transformation, the journey from praying to not praying, is one of the most significant movements within a person and also one of the quietest invisible to anyone else, recorded only in that private inner space where the praying was happening. I learned that she had been praying for things to get better between us, which I didn't know at the time it was happening. And I also learned that a day came when she stopped praying, which I also didn't know at the time it happened. And learning both of these things together, the praying and then the stopping, brought a weight I wasn't prepared for, even though I'd thought I had developed adequate capacity to accept difficult information about that period until I learned this. The prayer itself, its existence, tells me something about where she was and whether she still believed something was possible during that period when it was happening, because you don't pray for something you've already given up on. Prayer requires at minimum enough belief that what's being asked for still exists within the realm of possibility, and the fact that she was praying for us to get better means that during that period she still considered improvement possible, still believed some version of our circumstances existed that was different from the version we were in at the time. And this belief, which persisted through a period I now understand was so difficult that she had to remind herself every morning of reasons to continue, is one of the most significant things I've learned about her, about what she was carrying and how she was carrying it. She was carrying difficulty and simultaneously carrying hope, and carrying both of these together is a particular kind of sustained effort that demands far more from a person than carrying either one alone. And she was doing this privately, without telling me that neither the difficulty nor the hope existed for her in the form I assumed they did, showing me the version of herself that functioned and was present, while inwardly, every day she was doing this work of hope through prayer for something she couldn't generate on her own, because it required something from me that I wasn't giving. The day she stopped praying is the part I think about most. That particular day, when something shifted enough that the prayer that had been happening didn't happen. When she woke up one morning or sat with herself at some point in the day and understood that the thing she'd been praying for had become something she could no longer find within herself. The conviction to keep praying for, and I want to try to understand that day from the inside, which I can only do approximately and incompletely because I wasn't there, and because I only know that the stopping happened, not what it felt like, but I can try because I think it's worth trying. I think it was quiet. I think the most important understandings are often quiet, arriving without the drama that their significance would seem to demand. And I think the stopping of the prayer came quietly, not like a decision made forcefully in some moment of anger or despair, but like a recognition, a simple and complete recognition that something had ended, that the reserve of belief sustaining this practice had reached its natural limit, without any single dramatic cause, and without any specific final event. that could be pointed to and said, "This is where it ended," just the gradual accumulation of everything, finally reaching the point where the balance shifted and hope was no longer available in the form prayer requires. I don't know if she cried that day or not. I think she probably did, but I don't know, and not knowing is itself its own particular weight because it's evidence of the distance that had grown between us, the distance that meant the most significant inner events of her life were happening somewhere I had no access to, that she had days carrying enormous inner significance without my knowing, and without my being capable of knowing. And the stopping of the prayer was certainly one such day, with tremendous inner significance. A day when the things sustaining her relationship to our circumstances changed forever, and things never looked the same to her from the inside after that day. When I think about that day now, knowing what I know, what I feel is not fundamentally guilt, though guilt is present too. It's something more particular than guilt and quieter than guilt. Something about this waste, about the specific tragedy, that someone could spend an important part of their life praying for something that the other person, the one being prayed for, didn't even know was being prayed for, and therefore wasn't making any effort to become worthy of it, didn't even know they were being wanted in this particular, sustained and sincere way, which is itself a gift. She was holding hope for both of us, directing her belief toward the possibility of things getting better. And I was passing through that same period without knowing this hope existed, without any relationship to it at all. And there's something in this asymmetry that I consider one of the most difficult things in the whole honest counting of that period, in some ways more difficult than the things I did or didn't do, because hope was the thing she was giving, and I wasn't even present enough to know I was receiving it. This stopping didn't announce itself to me or to anyone. Life continued the way it had been continuing. The days looked the same from outside, and something inside her changed forever, quietly, without ceremony. And she kept showing up, and kept being present, and kept doing everything our shared life required of her. And nothing looked different because she had learned, over a long time, how to keep her inner self hidden from the places she moved through. And the hiddenness of this particular change, the stopping of something this significant, is itself specific evidence of the distance that had grown, of how completely different the inner reality of what was happening was from whatever version I was seeing or understanding. I sometimes think about her on that day, alone, in that particular way. Significant inner moments make a person alone, even when surrounded by people and responsibilities and life's ongoing demands, reaching the end of something that had been carrying her through a difficulty. And I wish, not because wishing changes anything, but because I think some wishes deserve to be spoken. I wish I had known. I wish I had been present enough and attentive enough that the hope would have been visible to me and would have had a chance to receive something back from me that might have made that day, the day she stopped, a different kind of day, one that wouldn't have needed to arrive the way it did, when it did.